that is where I'm putting my value. And I'm not so much striving towards building up a huge nest egg to retire at some future date. I'm here right now, and I don't know what tomorrow holds.
Hello and welcome to episode 127 of the Studio Sherpas podcast. Hey, my name is Ryan Coral, and my number one goal here is to help you grow your video business. I'm a video business owner myself here in the Metro Detroit area in Michigan, and I think you're awesome. I think you're awesome for listening to this show. So here we are, episode 127. What are you doing? Oh, you're listening. Oh, I'm supposed to keep talking. Okay, cool. Hey, if you have not been a part of the live Q&As that I've been hosting online with like video, we have been answering all sorts of questions like, where should I start if I'm building a video business? Should I niche down or niche down, depending on how you say that? And if I do niche down or niche down, can I niche down too far? Also, top tips on getting businesses to call you. Plus, who should I hire first, second, and so on, as well as when is the right time to hire. So we're covering all sorts of topics. People are submitting questions, and I'm answering them on live Q&A. It's been really fun. You can find out when the next one is going to be if you head over to studiosherpas.com/grow, and we'll keep you in the loop about the next live Q&A. And again, that is studiosherpas.com/grow. Now, my friend, you are in for a real treat. Chris P. Jones is one of those guys that I met a long time ago in the event film industry, and always looked up to this guy. Especially, he had a playing card at one point. We didn't talk about that, but it's true. He does have a playing card. I do have a playing card as well from when I was 7 years old. I played t-ball. I was awesome. I had a batting average of like 816. I think it was something like that. And my favorite baseball player was Kirk Gibson from the Detroit Tigers. And that was, I think, the year after they had won the World Series. So, of course, who else was going to be my favorite player? Anyway, sorry. Yeah, we're going to talk about Chris and the chat that we talked about. So today's episode is all about why you should be strategic when choosing which projects and opportunities you do for free. We also talk about the incredible benefits of growing a tribe. And then we talk about, this is probably the most interesting, why Chip and Joanna are the worst clients ever. Just kidding. That's not true. I was trying to do like a clickbait thing, but you're already here, so why would I do that? I don't know. But it is super fun. Chip and Joanna are clients of Chris's, and he kind of talks about that as well. So you're going to like this guy, super humble, full of wisdom, and I just love the real rawness of kind of where this discussion went. Not really, I guess a lot of these aren't really planned, but I thought it was really cool where we ended up. So I think you will too. So let's dive into the episode with Chris P. Jones. Welcome, friends, to another edition of the Studio Sherpas podcast. I'm Ryan Coral, just back from vacation. I've been gone, and I like dropped my wife off at home, raced to the studio because I'm very excited for our guest today, Chris P. Jones, not Crispy, but Chris P. Jones, who is owner, founder, principal, proprietor, all of those things of Mason Jar Films in is Waco, Texas?
It is now back in Waco, Texas. 10 years in Austin.
10 years in Austin, now in Wacky.
No, excuse me. 8 years in Austin, 9 years before that in Waco, and now 8 months.
I love it. So, Chris, welcome to the show, man. I'm so happy you're here, and hopefully there's not too many inside jokes that people are going to be like, what are these guys talking about? Because there's a long history of when we first met forever ago.
There are, and I think we agreed that most of those inside jokes were to remain in the vault.
Yes.
We had important people in our lives that would not benefit by any of these stories being told. And your audience certainly isn't benefiting by me telling inside jokes that they're not going to get and they might be curious about. But no inside jokes here.
Yeah.
I don't know, should we talk about our history a little bit.
I was going to say, I forgot in your introduction, I forgot to say event filmmaker top 25 in the world. Forgot to add that to you were in the magazine. When I first met you was at not Event DV. What event was that? The
Forever Group, 2006.
Moment of Silence
in Orlando.
Was that Orlando? Yeah, I think you're right. That's when. Yeah. So filmmaker conference, and mostly made up of wedding filmmakers, but there were some corporate filmmaker, not really commercial or documentary, anything like that, right? That was pretty much the makeup.
About 5 years ago, my brain reached capacity and has started offloading a lot of details.
Things that weren't important.
We're talking 2006 here. Not to say that meeting you was not important. I can still tell you that for that conference, or maybe the next one, you were presenting, there was something about a 6-figure business.
It was
6 figures for the first time or something.
Yeah, I think how to become an overnight success in 5 years or less was.
Yes. And your picture was you wearing a glide cam with a vest.
Oh, yeah.
You're very, very proud to show that off, which was a step up, because in this world of event filmmakers up until that point, the E&G camera was on the business card. But Ryan was like, no, screw that.
Yep.
Next level, I've got a vest. I'm putting it on. This is what keeps me warm in the Michigan winters, and that's going to be in my picture. Also, I believe you're wearing glasses in the picture, and you're rocking a Serious Soul patch.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's
you kept the important memories.
The important memories, yeah.
So give us a picture here. Talk about, tell us what you do right now, and then I would love to kind of just jump into like your journey as a filmmaker to where things are at today.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you about what I do right now, and we'll probably circle back to where I am growing, where I am taking some new ground. So I'm not going to lead off by talking about those things, but where I'm now, physically, geographically, I'm in Waco, Texas, which is halfway between Austin and Dallas, 100 miles on each side. And I have a business that does primarily event work in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. That's where the money is. And then I do a little bit of corporate and commercial work with some clients that we'll talk about here in a little bit too. And we relocated back to Waco about 8 months ago for a variety of reasons, most of which didn't have to do with my business, but are just season of life decisions. And having a business that's thrived enough in the big city of Austin and developed that cachet that I can move back to a smaller city, enjoy the slower pace of life, not have to drive 20 minutes to get to the first person that I care about, not have to drive 20 to 30 minutes to get one way to the grocery store. I'm at an age, which even though I look younger than Ryan, I believe I'm older, but I'm at an age where I am, I wouldn't say I'm seeing the finish line, even though for this conversation, I thought, let's put in the show notes a website where it'll estimate how many days you have left on this planet. I figured that would tie in somehow. And you could go to countmydays.com. I've got about 14,655 left. But those, I'm of an age where
spending one of those with us, by the way. Just
what? Pardon?
Thank you for spending one of those 14,000 with us today.
Yes. So this is something that's totally worth it. So I'm of an age where I've achieved a lot as far as my business, and there's a lot more in life that I want to achieve, just personally or professionally. And there's also a lot that we want to do as a family. And we had developed some clients, which I'll probably talk a little more about here in a little bit, in Waco over the last 4 years. And my wife is also in a transitional period with her occupation. We wanted to reopen a family bakery that's been dormant since 1950 from Louisville, Kentucky. We're also looking to foster to adopt children, and the process would go much quicker and easier in a small town, getting all the training done rather than having to drive 30 minutes everywhere we go. And, we're not looking for the big city life and experience anymore. And there was a season for that, and it was great. And I highly recommend anybody out there, if you have a chance to move to a big city for a few years, to do that. Great place to learn and gain experiences and experience a lot of life. But it may be that there comes a time in life where you start, or I'll just speak personally, where I start thinking about my days and how I spend my days. And a lot of this comes, and I don't want to get things too dark here off to the beginning. But this will be something that everybody listening to this experiences. The only thing I have in common with everybody listening to this podcast is that we're all dying. And at some point you realize that, whether it's when you lose somebody who's close to you, in my case, my father, my wife's sister, my aunt, or there may be other reasons that wake you up to that fact. Yeah. And you begin to think about really making the most of the time that you have, and cutting out frivolous activities, toxic relationships. Just sitting in the car, I've referred to that a few times. I don't want to spend, the time I have left on earth, that 30 minutes in traffic going somewhere is a bigger, I think mathematically, it's a bigger ratio of the time I have left. So I want to have smaller ratios of time doing things that I don't like doing. So I have rambled already out of the gate.
This is good. I'm totally resonating with you. We just finished not too long ago, Essentialism, the book. I'm assuming, have you read it?
No? So I don't read books, but I love to hear quotes from them.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like I've read the book. I think you're going to distill it here for me.
Well, no, I mean, that's just that idea of really simplifying your life, getting rid of, frivolous activities and toxic relations, all of the things that don't add value, to your life, which, in turn, you're trying to add value to those lives around you, and not doing things that aren't essential. If it's not, the author, I think, borrows a quote from somebody else, but he's basically like, if you have two choices or many choices in front of you in only, and it's not like he says a hell yeah, then pass. Like only do the things that like really are driving, your mission as a person, and to start practicing saying no, and really building your life around those things that are really, really important.
Yeah. And on the one hand, there's a luxury to that. You have 3 kids, so I imagine you have a lot more responsibilities than I do. You have a lot more people depending on you in life. You have a big team. And there are things that you probably have to say yes to that maybe you didn't want to.
Right.
And I know in filmmaker conversations, we talk about pursuing your passion and all that. And I'm fully behind doing that. And I do recognize that we do have to do stuff that we don't like.
Right.
But it's more about pruning that.
Mm-hmm.
Pruning life. We can all prune our lives a bit, no matter what our responsibilities or financial needs are in our family situation. There's always ways to find time to do things, to find money to do things, to even be more creative, to bring in more money with our time, which I'm sure a lot of the podcasts you've had here have talked about that. And I think that's just especially important And so you could probably refer the listeners to some of the previous podcasts where people have talked about making more money with your time. I think I listened to one with our buddy Patrick Moreau talking about going from 5,000 to 50,000 on some projects that are the same project. The being able to make more money with one's time gives one the flexibility to do more with their time, with your time.
Yeah.
And that is where I'm putting my value. And I'm not so much striving towards building up a huge nest egg to retire at some future date, although I do believe that saving money is important and investing is important. I'm here right now, and I don't know what tomorrow holds.
No.
And I don't know when next week. I don't know if I'll be around next year. I don't know. My wife could die. I don't know. And I don't want to live with regrets. And I think that if we're not focused about what we want to do, the type of work we want to do, how much money we truly need, then we are subject to being pulled by other people's whims. You alluded to learning how to say no a minute earlier. That is a difficult thing. Maybe not to everybody, but for someone like me, yes, boundaries. Yeah. It is tough for me to set boundaries. I want to please people. As a matter of fact, showing up to this conversation today, just thinking through my thoughts yesterday, I thought, well, let me try this. I'm going to write down as I notice them what my ego needs are coming into this conversation that are not necessarily helpful. Of course, I want to make you laugh, Ryan Coral, because then, if we have a good rapport here, it's like comedians in cars getting coffee. It feels, I will feel like I've added value. I want to have the longest episode ever of all your podcasts.
You're well on your way, man.
Yes, if I do not shut up. Yes, I can see your editors off to the side, just already.
They're like, oh gosh,
beating their head against the wall. And I want your listeners, who I can't see and most of whom I will never meet, I want them to feel like I'm important. Now, these are the things that ran through my head yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know that talking about them out loud makes them any less true right now. It may.
Yep.
But I'm just sharing here. And I don't even know why I got on this, but it's about boundaries. It's about wanting to please people. I want to have my ducks in a row. I want to come here with a bunch of notes. I want to think about what I can share that can be of value. And I don't know where I'm going with this sentence.
No, man. I really appreciate that honesty and vulnerability, because I feel like, you and I, we've had a few conversations over the years, and I feel like we go deep pretty fast, and I enjoy that. I appreciate that about you a lot. And I think even in this conversation, what you're giving people is that freedom to choose that as well. And to think about, what is most important. And I joke, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we'd do a Monday morning meeting with our team. And sometimes I'll have an inspiring word or something, and usually I won't. But this one in particular, I just said, hey, listen, you guys, like, work hard today, give today everything you got, because you could die today. And then, like, every morning we had like huddles throughout the week. And I just said, hey, don't forget, you could die today. So what are you focused on? What are you doing? But it is true. And, we laugh and whatever, but I feel like there are not many times in our lives where we're able to, stop and take a step back and to look at what it is that we're actually doing and why are we doing it? Is it ego? Is it for other reasons? And I love that you even, are talking about ego, because as filmmakers, it's hard to separate the success of our films, the success of, pretty shots, the success of our business, of our finances, all that stuff. It's hard to separate and it's hard to not get a big head, when you become the 25th top 25 filmmaker in the world. It's hard to not be like, oh yeah, all right, somebody's finally taken notice. They found me finally. But I think it's super good, and thank you for sharing that, because I know there are other people that struggle with that. My hand is raised. I like go on our Instagram, and I'll look at like how many followers we have, and I'm always like, dang it, like we got like 0 new followers this week. Like, what the heck? Like, what's wrong with me, or what's wrong with the content that we're creating? And then it becomes a lot more about me and about what I think is success, and about how I feel. And that's not helpful for anybody else in the world.
Yeah. And many of you may be tuning into this podcast and hoping to learn about tech and gear and all that kind of stuff. And let me be the first to tell you that today you have come to the wrong place. And if that's what you're looking for, that's fine. That's great. I probably will not share anything that's helpful for you. As you can see at this point already, I tend to get kind of emo real fast if I'm talking with like an old veteran that has the war stories like Ryan Coral, a lot of history here. But it just seems like that has been my soapbox for as long as I've been educating within the industry, which I don't really do anymore. But back when I did, the presentations were technical in nature, but it was more about how is this going to help you achieve your vision for your life. So I can't really get away from that. Yeah. I feel like that is the greatest thing I have to share. One of the greatest things I have to share is just to talk about the journey of being a filmmaker, and to inspire others to think about their own journey, their own life story, and how filmmaking is a part of that.
Yeah.
Because we are not defined by what we do. I don't really know exactly how we're defined. We're pretty complicated creatures. There's who we think we are, who we want to be. There's what we don't even know about ourselves. Mm. That's where we get in trouble, usually. So I just want to encourage people to know themselves the best, know why they're doing this. Yeah. And I even want to give people permission to quit if they discover that their vision for their life the filmmaking does not fit in it.
Yeah.
You will be much happier doing what leads you to the vision for your life, maybe. And so by having this conversation, I'm also hoping that nobody says, hey, Chris P. Jones, what is the vision for your life? I don't really want to share that right now because I haven't given it much thought. I've been in the weeds for quite a few months with the move and getting business reestablished and pursuing some new things. But that's not why I came here to talk about my vision. So I would love for you to ask me a question right now, because
I see you leaning in like
I wade out and then it's like, throw me a line, get me back in.
Yeah. So I forgot to mention this when we started here, Chris. There's a little fan base here of our mutual friends that will be listening to this show, right? Because they're like, oh man, you got Jones. Can't wait to hear what you guys talked about. So
where's he been?
Long ago, Chris helped, because the sort of the world that we were in, the events that the conferences for wedding filmmakers, specifically event filmmakers, just kind of were fizzling out. But with a band of people over the course of a couple of years, created what became known as In Focus. And how many years did In Focus? Was it 5?
We did, I believe, 7 events.
Oh, man. So, they would host these events that were amazing. I was able to go to a handful of them, and super incredible to meet the people around the world that are doing similar work. And, Studio Sherpas really is a nod to events like In Focus, where I learned so much, how to be a filmmaker, how to be a business owner, how to network, how to grow as a creative. And I've just loved to see like little elements of that happening in this community known as Studio Sherpas. And really it's that phrase, I hosted something a couple of weeks ago, and this gal was just like, she's an old family friend of ours, and she's like, yeah, man, wow, like you really made something of yourself. And it, like, I just feel so uncomfortable with that phrase or sentence or whatever. And I just stood there and I said, thank you. And I'm like, I don't know what. And then later I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, and so said this. And I was like, I wasn't really sure, like, in this other phrase, I stand on the shoulders of giants, right? That is what I've just so honestly believe that I have just learned from the best, and have been given opportunities by people that, saw something in me that said, yeah, like, we believe in you. We want to hire you. We want to work with you. We want to partner with, we want to refer you, all these different things. And that's where I express a lot of gratitude. I journal daily, and that's typically how I start my journal off. And so anyway, to you, Chris, thank you so much for the countless hours, time, energy, efforts, all of the work that went into producing those events, and really just trying to be a voice in the industry that was helpful, that would try to speak hope into people and life into people. And I just love that we're getting a little glimpse of that even now, as you're, just talking about like, hey, like, you're not going to be 25 and doing this thing and kicking butt forever. There's seasons of life, and business will change, and make sure that you're kind of thinking long term as well as short term too. But don't put all your eggs in one basket and think that, hey, maybe filmmaking is my career forever. Like maybe it is, but maybe there's something else you're made to do as well.
Yeah, and as a filmmaker, as you build a list of clients who trust you, then how can you leverage that trust into your future filmmaking or your next endeavor? So if filmmaking is not going to be something that's going to be your full-time thing, or if you back down to part-time, or if you decide just to quit altogether, you have to think about what place this has played in your life and the relationships you've made along the way, and how you can be a resource to those relationships, and how those relationships can be a resource to you moving forward in your life. So if anybody's out there considering, if it's not working for you and you want to quit, I don't want you to think of quitting as a bad thing. Yeah. I just want you to think of it as your next step. Quitting into, or feeling forward, I think, is a popular thing that people say now. That's probably in a book that I have not read. Yeah. But thanks for mentioning, the work we put into for putting together educational events. Those were a lot of fun. They did take a lot of time, and they weren't profitable. I wish they were, so we could have continued to do them. But I found that the most important part of my filmmaking journey has been the community I've surrounded myself with, the filmmaking community that I have surrounded myself with. And I know a lot of people out there listening to this have not ever been to a workshop or a filmmaking conference. And I want to strongly encourage you to find a tribe that you can meet with in person. I think there's something coming up in June from Studio Sherpas, so that should be one thing that you should consider.
Although I'm thinking that by the time this episode airs, we're already past it. So I like that you're talking about it, but at the same time, people are going to be like, oh, it already happened.
I'm talking about 2020, after the success that you had of the first Studio Sherpas powwow.
Yes.
So I know, and right now there's a workshop going on. I know a lot of friends who are attending the Venture workshop in Denver. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm a little bit jealous. I'd love to be there, hanging out with people and having a good time. I have other friends who've done stuff. And they're probably going to remind me of that. And if I don't mention them, John Connor, Masters in Motion, he was a guest on this show, I believe.
Yep.
Fantastic work he does every year in Austin. So here's why you should find your in-person tribe and not just rely on Facebook and meeting people through groups and booking people as second shooters and just not really developing real relationships. The benefits, some stories here, the benefits of how it saved my bacon throughout the years, if that's still an expression. I don't think my wife likes that expression. But anyway, in 2016, my business was rocking and rolling. I had my dream team together. We're booking more events than we ever had before. We were on track. We made, I think, twice the gross sales as the previous highest year. Not the previous year, but the previous record. We doubled it. And we had a lot of weddings coming up in October and November, sometimes 2 to 3 a day. So as we're shooting this wedding in Houston, Courtney, who's worked with me since 2002, probably. And I haven't cleared this with her, so I don't want to say too much, but she just, between the ceremony and the reception, there was a health issue with her newborn. And it was very, very serious. And we're the only 2 shooters, and I've got to get over to River Oaks Country Club before the 1,200 guests arrive, get valeted and get in there. And it was such a serious incident that she needed to go home right then. Jeez. And leave the shoot to me. And so that was a difficult evening. Managed to pull it off. The client never knew. Probably because there was 1,200 guests and you couldn't tell the difference between one videographer and 2. But the next day, as I was leaving Houston, Courtney lived in Houston at the time, I was heading back to Austin. We met up to exchange some gear, and she said, this is a really big deal, and I need to step away from work permanently, starting right now. And I don't know if or when I can be back. This health issue we have to figure it out. So I had 2 weddings the next weekend, and then in a couple weeks, like 3 weddings. And she was leading one each of those weeks, And there's only one other person in Texas that at the time would lead weddings for me. So this was quite a stressful moment for me. At the same time, because I had been going to conferences and had been finding people from going year after year that, okay, these people are good people. They're creative people. They're serious about their business. They're fair. And these are people that I can trust. Then I didn't really have any problem finding replacements within 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, I flew some people in. We spent a lot of money on flights and that kind of stuff, lost a lot of money because of that. But that's business, that's life. And you have to have those margins for preparing for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
Because you will have those types of emergencies at some point. Car trouble, your own health issues. And you have to have people that you can trust. So I strongly encourage anybody listening to check out any of the workshops that I mentioned. Come to the 2nd edition of Studio Sherpas in 2020. Find 5 or 6 to 10 people over the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, this may not happen instantly for you. It may take a while to build those relationships and build that trust. But this will be invaluable to you, especially if you're in a smaller market and you don't have a local group. Dallas has a fantastic group. Austin does as well. Houston, I think, has a group that meets together too. So in big cities, it's not as hard, but a lot of us don't live in the big cities, and you're going to need to pull from across the country if the emergency ever arises.
Yeah, the nice thing, let me just add to that, is when you build friendships people get it. Like if you're in a jam, I mean, we've been in jams before, and there's times where you totally didn't budget enough for a flight, for somebody to come in. There is profit margin, but it's like, oh man, people want you to, your friends want you to succeed, right? So if you're just like, hey, what's your normal rate? We can pay that. We're totally getting stuck with this bill. Can we work? Is there any wiggle? No, cool. Yes. Okay, cool. That's just, and that's how we work too. If we can, not charge our full rate because of, whatever the circumstances, we know they're not going to call us every single time and be like, hey, can you do that rate that you did the first time? It's like, we did that for, as a favor. That's, a good relationship. There is that, like, hey, like, we want to be helpful. So if we can, and I know of guys who have, shot for free, and there are a couple of forums that I'm on locally where, people, their friends, quote unquote, whatever, they may have never met. And people do step up and step in and say like, oh, we, lost my shooter. Or, yeah, somebody I can help, whatever. And that stuff's great and whatever. But what you're talking about is sort of next level. Like, yeah, I really trust you with, I can't do it, right? I need you to be the brand, the face of the brand, or whatever the case may be. And that's next level. And I really, I concur with you in the need for that.
It's very easy for us to think about what we need as far as our skill set. But it's kind of like saving money. It's hard to want to even think about the possibility of an emergency happening someday. And therefore we don't go ahead and put the safeguards in place for that to happen, because I don't know why we don't think about that. Maybe because we want to believe that it's not going to happen.
Yes.
But it happens. It happens to everybody. It happens in one way or the other. So yeah, point one on finding community is it'll save your bacon. Point two is to combine your resource power. And that's where we as a business are coming today. If I were to go out and sell me to a client, there's really not that much to sell. I'm not very smart when it comes to production. I stopped, as I said earlier, I stopped learning things. Well, a lot of things. My brain filled up about 5 years ago. I have to offload a lot of stuff. I don't know what LUTs are. LUTs, like if a couple of filmmakers are having a conversation and trying to draw me in and they're talking about LUTs, it's like, have you ever had a moment where you're in another country and the person from that country looks at you and says something in their language because they think you're from their country? That's what it's like. When I hear LUTs, it's like listening to it's German, French, LUTs. It's actually, that sounds kind of like the Swedish Chef from the Muppet Show. So perhaps LUTs are Swedish. I cannot go into a situation and wow a board of directors or a creative director with what I can do. Yeah. I am very limited, and I am learning to embrace that I'm very strong in what I'm limited in, and that's more than okay. Most of my career has been me alternating between I could do that and then I should not be here. Once I get there. Imposter syndrome. But I'm learning to deal with that, because it's important to specialize in certain things and to not really rely on, there's only so much one filmmaker can offer. Right. And if I am just trying to employ this person or that person, and this person leaves the company and goes off and does their own thing, or they just have to move, then I am losing, if I'm relying on them and selling just us people here in the studio, then I am losing their skill set permanently. I no longer can sell that if I'm just thinking about gathering just local resources.
Yep.
But if you go out and you meet people who are of different skill sets, this person's pursuing cinematography, this person's pursuing lighting, this person is pursuing audio, and you make yourself available to one another. This person does After Effects. Once you begin to know all these people and have these resources and people at your fingertips that you trust, then what you have to offer is unlimited. And how this works for me, we have shot probably about 300 weddings in the history of the company. That has been, in the history of the company, about 90% of what we have done. We, in 2015, while I was living in Austin, there was this popular show that was being filmed in my old stomping ground of Waco. I came to Waco for graduate school in 97 to 01. And if you knew anything about Waco at the time, Waco was just one of those towns that can never stop getting in the way of itself. Just a very Waco, you say that's a very Waco thing to happen. It started with the Branch Davidians. It started way before that. There was some really sordid history here. There was the biker shootout, 9 people dead a few years ago. There's, a guy took those fake spice, whatever stuff, and that was a big thing a few years ago, and he ate like a living dog on his front porch. Just weird stuff that happens around here. It's like a town in a Stephen King novel. That was my memory of living here. We're in Austin, and I didn't pay attention to this TV show that was being filmed here until it was like season 2. And then I checked it out. I'm like, well, this is really cool. I can't believe that they're making people excited about Waco. The show is called Fixer Upper. It's on HGTV. I had remembered Joanna Gaines from when I lived in Waco. Her dad owned a tire store, and I'd see her at the coffee shop. She's actually in a little music video in the crowd that I shot from like 2001 or 2002. Found footage there. So I'm like, oh yeah, I remember those people. Yeah, they're doing cool, hip stuff. So I talked with Courtney, and we're like, well, let's see. They're opening this big market in October. They're having a grand opening celebration. We shoot events. Let's say we want to be your event filmmakers for that, and see where it goes. And this is a project, and I encourage people to be very strategic about what they do for free. And this was a good one to do for free. And so we talked to a photographer in Waco, and she goes, you need to talk to this person and this person. So before we even mailed that person and that person, they contacted us, said, we'd love to talk to you about filming our grand opening. We're like, great. So we sat down with some of the people from the marketing team, and they said, yeah, we I saw your wedding work. So I was familiar. We wanted you for our wedding, but you're out of our budget. So we're a little bit sad about that, but now we'd love to have you to do this. And we've seen your work, and just do what you do. And they gave us complete freedom. Courtney and I shot that. She knocked the edit out of the park. We had it online in a few days, and then it was all over the world so people could see this grand opening celebration. So then we started exploring a little further. What else can we do for this company? I mean, they have a TV show, but mostly they're a company. They've grown, gosh, they probably got about 1,000 employees now. At the time, they probably had 200 or 300. And so we would just meet with people who trusted us at the company. These are people who did not say, oh, well, you've done mostly weddings, so we're not going to give you anything else. They'd say, we're about to shoot some, we're launching a furniture line. We need some templates of commercials to send out to the retailers nationwide. Can you do this? And it's going to be in 10 days from now. And we're like, oh, national commercials. Never done that before. Of course we can. So I called up some of my resources, some of the people I've met throughout the years, because we never made national commercials before, but we're able to put together the budget, think things through and what we would need, and lean on some people who had more expertise in that type of stuff. So we called
funny, I don't remember the phone call. I don't remember you calling.
Yeah, man. You were on the other line, I guess. I'm sorry about that. There may be future opportunities. So I talked to Aaron with 31 Films. We've known each other for a long time. Yeah, they're okay. They're more than okay. They're fantastic.
I mean,
so I thought, if I can hire these guys to DP it, then it's going to be piece of cake for the rest of it. And so Aaron and somebody else came. I think it was, oh shoot, he's going to kill me for getting his name off the top of his head.
If you can remember, if you can't, then just say, Aaron and his team or whatever came out. We can edit this chunk out.
Okay, edit. So Aaron and his team came up to Waco, and for 2 or 3 days, we filmed these furniture commercials, put together the templates, had a huge budget. At least for us, it seemed like a huge budget, and did the editing and created these commercials. And then we hear, like, my in-laws in Florida saying, "Oh, we're in Tampa and we saw this commercial. Is that what you created?" And we're like, "Yes." Pretty amazed by that. Felt good. Felt really good. So we did not know, we'd never done that before, but it didn't matter. We felt confident that we'd been around production long enough that we knew what we needed as far as people resources. And we had those resources in people that we had known and trusted, both as people and as technicians. So it allowed us to sell ourselves even more, knowing the resources that we had at our fingertips. That continues today. I have a mastermind group. It was begun by, I believe it was Ryan, not you, Ryan Welch in Oregon from AO Films. Yeah. And so along with Matt Davis, the Studio Sherpas original co-founder.
Oh, yeah.
Amy Johnson out of Wisconsin, Emmy Award-winning Amy Johnson. Andrew and Emily Sorley out of Toronto, Lee Morton out of Baltimore. There may be 1 or 2 others. Forgive me if I'm forgetting you. But we talk once a month in a conference call. We've known each other from these conferences in the past. That's how we met up with one another. And I've flown in Ryan Welch and Ryan Rossman to do a shoot with Magnolia. One time we did all their Magnolia's in-house training videos and corporate values and that kind of stuff. Once again, I was in need of people who had worked under that type of schedule and had that type of experience. And so I just kind of faded into the back as more of a producer role and let them do their thing. So we come out looking great. And they get paid really well too. And they have fun. They get their picture with Chip and Joe. And then everybody thinks, they're awesome for that. I mean, they were awesome already anyway. But if I had just decided that I was only going to sell myself and Courtney, then we would have aimed much lower. We would have not swung for the fences on that type of stuff. Yeah. So fast forward to today, I have this mastermind group, and all of these people have done so many great projects. I mean, the clients that the people in the mastermind group have are fantastic. Like, some have done work for Under Armour, for Martha Stewart, for Fox Sports, doing creative story telling type stuff. Gosh, who else? Documentary work, commercial work, just brand work. It runs the gamut. And recently, we have decided that in certain cases, in order for one person of the group to approach a pitch, then we will allow the entire body of work of this group to be considered one package. So we can say our team has served these clients. So I just bring one big client to the table, and that's Magnolia. But if I want to talk about, I'm sorry, my allergies are acting up here. It's oak season or something. But if I want to show who everybody has worked with and say, well, for this project, we might use Amy for this and Andrew for that, then we put together all of our client list. Right. Not all of us are like Tell, where you've, worked for Domino's Pizza and General Motors and every big company out of Detroit.
Actually, I don't think definitely not Domino's. General Motors, we have done.
It's Little Caesars. What is it that's out of?
No, Domino's is in Detroit, but so is Little Caesars. Yeah, we're like the pizza capital of the world, sort of.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, Detroit style.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a place in Austin, Via 313, Square Pizzas, I think. I don't know. It's good.
I like it.
But imagine the possibilities when you have this kind of agreement with other people.
Yeah.
That not only their personal talents, but their client list we can lean on that for making a pitch for some type of project. That takes me from having to develop myself in those specific areas and be everything, or to develop a team right here that has all those skills. And I could spend more time reaching out and finding the clients in order to pitch to, rather than trying to develop technical skills for people who will then serve those clients. Mm-hmm. So that leads me to what we're pitching next week, actually. And this is probably the biggest I could do that. I should not be here. And I'll say I should not be here once I get there, but we'll do fine. Yeah. Back in November, Magnolia being the company begun by Chip and Joanna Gaines, and let me just put a disclaimer here on this. I don't want to misrepresent my relationship with Magnolia or Chip and Joanna Gaines. We're not like buddies. We have a very good professional relationship that surfaces a few times every year. But I can't introduce you to them. Dang it. Actually, I could. But it'd be the last time that either of us saw them. So right. I'm not going to show up with you.
Oh no, man!
Not you, but everybody out here. I'm not gonna show up with you at their office just so you can get a peek. I don't want to misrepresent my relationship to make people think that I'm important here.
Yeah. Well, you are, but just
Yes, my mom says so.
Sorry.
But when they announced that they're going to have their own cable network, the bell goes off. Okay, they're going to need lots of content to fill up a network. And they want to produce a lot of that content in Waco, Texas, where we just moved a couple of months earlier. I did not know about the network. I had heard that they might be working on a network. I heard that actually word of mouth from Jimmy Don. You might remember him from the show. Ran into him in town. He was like, I think they're working on a network. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. How in the world are they going to be on TV that much? But that's not the point of it. They wanted to develop content that really brings their magazine to life and the values that are in it, from family to entrepreneurship to gardening to food, all kinds of stuff, lifestyle, family type stuff. So they announced that on the Tonight Show. Light goes off in my head, and I realized that I can produce a television show, a network television show. I have great ideas. I have resources in the people that I know. And for the people that I don't know, I can find people. I mean, that's the next step, where as you get people on the bus, you realize there's somebody out there who can do what I need them to do, and I don't have to learn about it. Mm-hmm. Let me just ask around. Hey, Amy, what kind of person draws up a budget? Oh, that'd be a line producer. Okay, here's my line producer, Chris. Go give him a call. So I'm tapping into their resources to build a project, to build a budget. So what I heard was, I called up my connections there at Magnolia, the director of PR, and I said, we would love to create content for the network, whether it's television shows that we develop, or whether it's video on demand, because they're going to have a huge video on demand component, maybe even subscription. So there's a lot of opportunities for content. And so if you're out there listening to me about this, keep an eye on that, because there may be opportunities for you to create content for this network. And maybe I can share you how someday, but please don't email me about it right now, because I would certainly love to hear from anybody, but I just don't have the time to respond to your emails. So apologies in advance. So called up the director of PR, and he said, yeah, this is great. Let's get you, I'll find the right people for you to talk to. The executive producer, Fixer Upper, the day after that they announced that there was going to be a cable network, he received 5,000 pitches in his inbox. And so we need a system here, and we're really not going to consider those, but we would like to introduce you guys, since you know us and know the brand and we trust you. We would like to introduce you to the people who are going to be in charge of the network. So I feel very honored that we got moved to the head of the class. And now I have in my inbox here the release form for pitching, which we will do next week. And I don't feel like I have to have all the answers. I just have to have a good concept in mind. We've already shown that we're capable.
Right.
They trust us for some strange reason. This is where the imposter syndrome starts to kick in. And one of their people from New York is going to meet with us the next time they're in Waco. And who knows where it will lead.
Sure.
We could have a show. They could hire us to do on-demand content. They could say, since you did those educational events and know so many people and built up those connections, let's have something filmed about barns in Wisconsin. All right, call up Amy. Let's have something about solar panels in Oregon. All right, we'll call up these guys.
Yeah.
So we are just making ourselves available for whatever is out there. And we're not really backing down because I or Courtney don't have that particular skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty wild journey to go from, we still shoot weddings, but to be able to leverage that in a way to build relationships. And a lot of people will say, and there is some truth to it, that you should have a separate website if you shoot weddings, because some people will look down on that. But I don't want anybody to feel like they're less than because they shoot weddings, because what you're doing is building trust with people in the skills that you have and in your ability to be a problem solver or a value bringer. And if you can really believe in yourself as someone who brings value, then you can really be creative about how you're going to bring value to people. And if they trust you, then it's just a matter of you putting the right people on the bus to create that value, put on your entrepreneur hat.
I love that, just the story of Chip and Joanna. I feel there's a sense in me, throughout the years, 15, 16 years being in business, that there have been those wins, those clients where it's just like, wow, the name is like so recognizable. And when we're able to tell people, when I'm able to name drop, and there are times where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just being like a total jerk by dropping this name, or I'm not trying to add value. But then there are other times where I'm trying to, build a relationship. And sometimes that's the thing that sort of gets your foot in the door, where people say like, oh wow, like they've got experience working with, high profile clients and whatever. So I love that. Also knowing that we've had success with big names in the past, and like, that's all that they needed us for. Right. So like, people are like, oh man, you guys, you're so successful because you got to work with, fill in the blank. And it's like, well, yeah, that was a successful project, but that was it. Now, I'm kind of back to like, okay, like, who wants to hire us now? Do you have any friends? Can you introduce us to people? And we typically don't even, I've very few times have I had the courage to ask like the really big name people and brands that we've worked with. And I guess more on a personal level, where I've felt more like these are like my children that I'm super overprotective of, and I don't want to, destroy the relationship. So I do appreciate that, just the realness of even this relationship, that, for you to say like, yeah, we're not, we're not texting each other back and forth, funny gifts of, whatever, like, can't wait to get the job. Can't wait for you guys to hire us. Ha ha ha. That's real. That's good. I think there's a healthy balance in that. And here's a totally honest question where we have to wind down here. But if Chip and Joanna, if that work if this opportunity totally doesn't happen and they stop hiring you for anything else in the future, how would your business be affected?
That's a good question. And I might have to circle back with you on that. That's the answer that Amy Johnson told me to give anybody who asks a question that I don't know. Like, hey, how much is this project going to be? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Let me circle back with you on that. It's funny talking with Courtney a few weeks ago. She said, Courtney's my creative partner. She said, she's back, by the way. Didn't finish the story there. She started doing some work for me back in December again, after the kids are older and healthy.
It's great.
She said, I'm really excited about the possibility of doing this show And I'm also going to be okay if this does not work out. I have as much today as I did yesterday and tomorrow, and this could be bonus. So I feel the same way, although it would be incredibly disappointing to not be able to sell some of these show ideas. And I have said, if I cannot do this in my own backyard, filming it here with incredible storylines, connecting with the values that they want, and having their trust already, then I just need to quit. That may be a little bit severe. It's not a referendum on my total ability if I can't get a TV show, which I've never done before, on a new network. Okay. That doesn't define me.
Right. Yeah.
I have to keep telling myself that, because I really, really want to do this. And I really want this to be the next step in my filmmaking journey. And part of it is because I want to hire out all my weddings to be shot by other people. And I want to be at home. Coming full circle here to how we started the conversation, I'm ready to stop traveling for work. I like to spend the night in my bed. I like to see my wife. I like to not miss out on what's happening with her.
Yeah.
We're working on fostering to adopt. I want to be around the kids that we will bring in. I want to be present. I want to provide well for them. And I want to do good work that matters, that I believe in. And so I think that, as I avoided talking about my vision for my life earlier, I think by this therapy session here, Ryan, thank you very much, the check's in the mail, that I've kind of released it there just now. That's what I want for my life. And filmmaking is a tool to get me there, to get me home.
I love it, man. That's so great. Thanks for sharing that. I think that it does. I love that you're in a spot where you can, because I feel like for a long time in my early years, I would have never have thought about doing anything else. Like, once I discovered filmmaking and running a business, I just am like, I found home. And then, as an entrepreneur, I also found out, a few years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I just love like creating new things and starting stuff. And so like, what would that look like if I didn't film? Like, what if I wasn't on set anymore? And then my identity was challenged, and I really just started thinking like, oh gosh, this isn't good. And then it was like, I was kind of I like had a secret from my team for a long time. Like, I didn't want them to know that I didn't really care to be filming nearly as much as or at all. And, and it's funny today, like I just posted not too long ago on my Facebook page. We were in Tallahassee a few weeks ago shooting, and I grabbed a camera, pretty much I got the best shots while we were down there. But, I probably shot for a total of 30 minutes, and the guys made fun of me and made a little GIF that, said like rare footage of Ryan filming. But, that was some of the insecurities that I went through too, of feeling like, can I say that like I might not actually be a quote unquote filmmaker for the next 30 years, and is that okay? And are people going to look down on me, and are they not going to value my opinion or the way that I would speak into work or whatever? And I think it's a lot of it comes down to just owning where you're at and what's important to you, and being okay with that, and know that there are going to be people that are going to look down and whatever. And it's like, you don't need them, right? You don't need that. Whatever they would have to offer you, it's not helpful for anybody. They're struggling with their own thing and their own stuff. But today my team knows that some projects I want to hop in on, most of them I don't, and that's okay. And I want to be the guy that's building the business and selling our big projects, and I love building a relationship with our clients. And once I realized that was like my superpower in this business, like that's where I said, I need to be spending my time there, and I shouldn't be going out on all day shoots all the time, because then I'm really not flexing that muscle that's going to help do all of the other things that I want. I want my employees to make more money. I want to make more money. I want us to have more freedoms. And if I'm shooting, those things aren't happening. Right. So anyway, appreciate that. How can and where can people find you online, kind of follow the journey? Are you doing much Instagram, or are you just kind of saying, no, that's not part of this?
So thankfully, I have somebody to do social media for me, because I do not do social media. I'm very clear about that for myself. I was even tempted coming into this conversation to set up an Instagram account.
Oh, man.
For those who hear this and are interested to learn more about the behind the scenes production and pitching and all that I'm going through here, I might have something to share.
Mm.
And certainly I do have something to share. I'm not committed to making that sharing happen. And so I thought that's probably an ego thing. Don't do it. Don't give out something and then, give people false hope,
Yes.
So I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here. I'm just saying, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you want to follow my journey, I don't know how that's going to be possible.
Come to Waco.
But maybe I'll do something, and maybe Ryan will share it one day. But if you want to follow my actual company account, it is on Instagram. It's at Mason Jar Films, MASONJARFILMS. Got a lot of cute stuff on there. I'm not going to give out email or anything, because as I said earlier, if you're going to take the time to write an email, I want to honor you and respond to that. And I'm just not in a season of life where I can give that kind of time. I would love to. I love talking to people. I love sharing. I love helping out. And I'm not committed to doing that right now. So thanks for listening. And maybe we can talk more someday when I come to Studio Sherpas 2020. Or maybe you want to avoid me like the plague because you realize that this guy knows nothing. He is such an imposter.
What?
I do not want to be on set with him because he's just kind of walking around like, okay, yeah, you do it. You're smart. You do it. That's how I lead.
Here is a quick question. I know I said I was done with questions. We have like our insider community for Studio Sherpas, where we do like people that are members or whatever, not members, people that are members of our community will do live trainings. And I'm just curious if you would consider coming on and doing like a Q&A, kind of talking about pitching, and just because here's my forecast is you will get some of this work, if not all of it, with Chip and Joanna. Would you be interested once that happens coming on and just kind of sharing some of what you learned through that process?
Absolutely. I think that's a great solution.
Sweet.
That way I'm not feeling the pressure to post something every day with social media. I do take notes along the way, and I will be happy to share exclusively with Studio Sherpas the journey. If something actually happens, otherwise I don't know.
We'll be like, what not to do.
Yeah, it's like sad trombone presentation. I don't know that I want to waste anybody's time.
Awesome. Well, so wrapping up, is there any last like nuggets, something that you can leave us with?
Yeah, I just don't know what it is.
Let me get back to you on that.
Let me circle back with you on that. No, I don't. I am pressuring myself right now to have a witty rejoinder, some witty repartee, something to sum everything up here. I will just re-emphasize what I've talked about in this conversation, and that is just the importance of finding community, tapping into resources of people that you trust, and determining what you want in life and how filmmaking plays a part of that. We as filmmakers, and especially those of us who have done weddings, are really focused on documenting important moments for other people's lives. And I don't want us to neglect our own stories and experiencing those moments for ourselves too. And not just for the human aspect of it, but I think it will make you a better filmmaker to experience life.
That's rich. That's really good. And not to tease the upcoming conference, but that is one of the things that one of our presenters is going to be sharing about. So
good. I
love that. Cool, man. Crispy Jones on the Studio Sherpas podcast. This was a blast. Great to catch up. Thank you again for sharing all that you did. And I'm excited to hear about you guys getting this work here very soon.
I do appreciate the work that you're doing and being able to pull up a podcast and get some inspiration and kind of get out of my own head for a while. and listen to other people as they've found ways to be creative and succeed. So thank you for spending your time creating moments like this that bring lots of value to me and to your millions of listeners.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. See ya.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
All right, that's it for this episode. All of the show notes can be found at studiosherpas.com/127. You'll find the links and other things that we talked about there in case you want to review, click on stuff, go to places. You can do that there. If you like the show, please share it. And if you want to leave us a review, you can do that at studiosherpas.com/iTunes. So I've got some new and updated training that is coming out very soon. And if you want to be the first one to access it, sign up at studiosherpas.com/grow. And we will keep you in the loop. I promise it's going to be good stuff. I've been working on this for quite some time, and I think it's going to bring a lot of value to a lot of people that are really trying to grow the business side of the video stuff that we do. And can I just say that we have got some awesome episodes coming up. DP, director, total studball, Ryan Booth, who I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. Graham Cochran. I don't know how many people have heard of Graham, although our podcast editor, Jeremy, was super jacked when he said, dude, you got Graham Cochran on the show? So he's known Graham for probably the past decade, I think Jeremy said. We also have Rob Booker, who's one of the presenters at the Studio Sherpas Onward conference that's coming up, and more. And next week, we've got Ray Edwards. This is a super fun interview. I do another podcast for Tell Studios, our video company. And so he had come on originally for that, but we're repurposing that episode here because I'm sure that you're going to get some really good stuff from Ray. He's a total rock star in the world of copywriting, and the way he speaks, man, the guy's got a ton of wisdom, and it's really, really inspiring conversation. So here's a little sneak peek from episode with Ray Edwards.
I had a friend who worked at the radio station. I was looking for a part-time job, and he said, you should work at the radio station. And I asked him, what do you do there? And he said, I run the Countdown show with Casey Kasem. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. So I was disappointed when I finally got the job to find out that Casey Kasem came on a record, like a vinyl record every week.
He wasn't there?
He didn't come in the studio and do his whole Casey Kasem thing. Hi, welcome to American Top 40. I'm Casey Kasem. I played the record anyway. So I did that for a number of years. I thought I would be able to get girls because of that job. Mm-hmm. That turned out to be wrong also. And then I thought I would get rich and drive like a Lamborghini. And I figured out that the people who drove those nice cars in the parking lot were not the DJs, turns out. They were the salespeople.
All right, and then lastly, I just want to say, if you're stuck or frustrated, if you're down and you're just kind of bumming, I want to say that you really have something to offer others. Your business is worth fighting for. Your creativity, the drive inside of you is worth untapping. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. You can reach me via email, hey@studiosherpas.com. Also, you can find me on Instagram and those other places online. Would be happy to connect with you and see if there's any way I can help you. So be encouraged, be inspired, and that might just start by trying to make somebody else's day better. So why don't you go do that, and I'll go do that too. I'm going to stop recording this, and I'm going to go do that right now. I'm actually going to write a card to somebody. All right, that's it. See you next week on the Studio Sherpas podcast.